What if those same countries that once promised opportunity just gradually stopped listening to the very people who helped build them? Throughout Europe in 2026, millions of immigrants are still working, paying taxes, and raising families, but many feel invisible. There are no dramatic expulsions, no loud announcements. The change comes in quiet policy shifts and colder attitudes. This is not about doors slamming shut in the dead of night, it's about welcome mat fading over time. Today we will show you which European countries make their immigrant communities feel forgotten.
Number 10. Sweden.
Sweden was once globally admired for welcoming refugees and promoting multiculturalism, most of all during the refugee crisis of 2015. So many immigrants arrived in Sweden full of hope, believing that integration would lead to equality and opportunity. By 2026, however, the reality feels more complicated. Funding for language training and social integration was reduced. Residency and citizenship rules became more restrictive, particularly for low-income families. Immigrant neighborhoods remained economically segregated. Unemployment among foreign-born residents remained consistently higher than for native Swedes. And public debate increasingly framed immigration as a social problem. Police presence is heavier in immigrant-dense areas. Schools in these districts struggle with fewer resources. Second-generation immigrants often feel caught between identities. Cultural contributions are celebrated symbolically but rarely supported structurally. Political rhetoric emphasizes control rather than inclusion. Trust has weakened between communities. Many say they feel tolerated rather than welcomed by immigrants. In practice, the promise of equality feels postponed. Sweden hasn't expelled immigrants, but it has emotionally stepped back. Number 9. Germany. Germany heavily relies on immigrants to keep its economy going, especially in the healthcare, logistics, and manufacturing sectors. Millions of foreign-born workers keep the essential systems running daily. Yet social inclusion has not kept pace with economic reliance. Many immigrants struggle with slow and complex citizenship processes. Housing shortages affect immigrant families first and hardest. Foreign qualifications are often not fully recognized. This forces skilled migrants into low-paying jobs. There are integration courses, but their funding varies depending on the region. Complaints of discrimination have risen over recent years. Political polarization increases social tension. Immigrant voices are still relatively absent from German decision-making. Historical guest worker programs promise temporary stays, not long-term belonging. That legacy continues to define attitudes today. Children of immigrants confront identity challenges. Cultural diversity is glaringly present but not politically empowered. Many feel Germany needs their work more than their presence.
Number 8. France.
France strongly voices the gospel of égalité, yet many immigrants find that difference itself seems discouraged. Integration often translates as assimilation, rather than mutual respect. Religious expression in particular, that of Muslims, is strictly regulated. Suburbs heavy with immigrants are underfunded and socially isolated. Youth unemployment is far higher in these areas. Relations between police and immigrant communities are tense. France's colonial legacy still informs social cleavages. Citizenship does not automatically translate into social acceptance. Cultural identity is frequently framed as a threat to national cohesion. Public debates rarely include the voice of immigrants. Inequality persists through generations within education. Most second-generation youth grow up feeling disengaged from institutions. Trust of government systems is eroding. It feels like a conditional belonging. Immigrants often feel that they are legally in, yet socially out, in France. Number 7. Italy. Italy is heavily reliant on immigrants to fill crucial gaps in agriculture, construction, and elder care. Yet, too many migrants live with unending legal uncertainty. Residency permits are hard to renew and easy to lose. Exploitation remains common in informal sectors of labor. Integration programs rarely exist, or are underfunded, from region to region. Citizenship laws are among the most rigid in Europe. Many children born and raised in Italy remain legally foreign. Political narratives are forever at fault with migrants when it comes to economic strains. Housing access is extremely limited for immigrant families. Social services rarely reach undocumented workers. Culture inclusion is superficial, not practical. Labor protections get weak enforcement. Migrant communities feel invisible despite all that the country receives from their contribution. Few achieve long-term stability. Immigrant labor benefits Italy, while immigrant lives often remain ignored. Number 6. United Kingdom. The United Kingdom abruptly changed its immigration direction after Brexit. In 2026, the effects are deeply felt in immigrant communities. The new system values economic value over human stability. Legal routes for migration have become narrower and more expensive. Many long-term residents live on temporary visas, under conditions of constant uncertainty. Family reunion rules have forced painful separations. Long delays and overcrowding in housing mar asylum cases. Healthcare workers face visa stress despite widespread staff shortages. Public service use has become significantly more restricted. Funding for integration projects was cut across local councils. Political language around migration hardened significantly. Media stories often associate migrants with systems pressure. Colonial migration history is rarely honestly discussed. For second-generation immigrants, identity and belonging present a difficult contradiction. Year after year, community trust has been weakened. Britain still welcomes workers, yet the sense of emotional abandonment in many communities runs strong. Number 5. Netherlands. For a long time, Netherlands has been presenting itself as a tolerant and progressive country. However, immigrants increasingly report that exclusion lurks beneath the surface. In 2024, Dutch authorities straightened the screw on language and integration requirements. Failing an exam now entails risks for residency security. Housing discrimination remains one of the major barriers. Immigrants often get pushed to areas with overcrowding. There is a rise in social suspicion against Muslim communities. Political debates address migration in terms of the risk it presents to culture. Integration policy pays more attention to discipline than support. Qualifications or not, integration gaps in employment persist. Foreign diplomas are still undervalued. The pressure to prove loyalty constantly is placed on second-generation youth. Limited cultural expression in public space. Support programs have quietly shrunk. It takes longer for immigrants to achieve social mobility. Tolerance does exist, but belonging is conditional.
Number 4. Denmark.
Denmark is one of the European countries with the most rigid immigration and integration legislation. Residence permits rely heavily on income, employment, and language scores. In cases of failure, loss of residence status takes place. Special legislation aims at immigrant-dense neighborhoods. Forcible relocation policies have caused the destruction of long-established communities. There are officially designated problem housing areas. Community culture is severely policed. Immigrants are culturally constructed as social risks in public rhetoric. It is very difficult for newcomers to access work. Immigrant children are under strain to forfeit their culture. Trust among residents in institutions is minimal. Political representation is at an extremely low level. Support systems are oriented towards control, not care. Rights seem fragile for many families. Denmark prioritizes regulation over connection.
Number 3. Austria.
In the course of the 2020s, Austria has continuously hardened its immigration policy. Family reunification requirements have become increasingly difficult to fulfill. Income thresholds exclude low-wage workers. Cultural integration expectations rise without additional support. Public debate on migration has clearly hardened. Immigrant workers fill labor shortages in construction and care. Social recognition remains poor. Educational inequality hits immigrant children early. Religious expression is highly scrutinized. Access to housing remains limited. Few immigrants hold political office. Community trust has been undermined year after year. Integration courses are scarce and inconsistent. Many immigrants feel that their voices are unheard by the authorities. Belonging feels far away and uncertain.
Number 2. Belgium.
Among European countries, Belgium includes one of the most diverse immigrant populations, yet its integration is highly fragmented. Policies vary widely from region to region. Support systems barely show coordination. Immigrant families fall through gaps. Housing inequality persists for newcomers. Employment discrimination is widespread. Citizenship does not grant social acceptance. The political representation of immigrants is limited. Cultural contributions barely find institutional support. Youth fight with identity and exclusion. Trust in public institutions has eroded. Social cohesion within communities is perceived as frail. Contributions of historical migration rarely find any recognition. A lot of immigrants feel invisible. There is diversity, but unity still struggles.
Number 1. Spain.
Agriculture, tourism, and domestic work, immigrant labor constitutes a substantial share of the workforce in Spain. Moreover, many migrants work informally without contracts. Reaching legal stability remains hardly achievable. Renewals of residence depend on unstable employment. Integration programs at the national level are underfunded. Access to housing is severely limited. Economic recoveries after crises excluded a large number of migrants. Citizenship applications take several years. Social acceptance varies by region and politics. Cultural inclusion is often symbolic. Labor protections are weakly enforced. The voices of migrants are rarely included in policymaking. Youth face ongoing uncertainty. Hope depends on the status of your paperwork. Spain welcomes workers and forgets communities. While Europe has not closed the borders, in many ways it has closed its heart. Immigrants are contributing to society still, yet increasingly remain unseen and unheard. When the lights of inclusion fade, trust breaks, and with it, societies weaken. These stories deserve attention, not silence. Because forgotten communities never just disappear, they just grow apart.